So, I totally made a bet with my freshman year roommate to see who could kiss Kevin first. I was totally into him, but my roommate and second best friend, Julie, tried to steal him. I had spent hours going on to Julie about how insanely in love with Kevin I was, but Julie pretended like she didn't know anything about it. And I was starting to think maybe she wasn't the best friend I thought she was. My name's Olivia. I'm 20, and I was totally gonna get revenge on Julie for stealing my crush. But that was before I transformed into a mermaid. So, Julie's cute, but she's kind of a mousy type, and I couldn't believe she thought she would actually get Kevin to kiss her before me. I don't like to brag, but I'm, at least a 9 out of 10, and I don't think Julie could compete once I turned on the charms. I heard through the grapevine that Kevin was going to be at this party my friend was hosting, and I even took Julie along to see how it was done. But when we got to the party, Kevin was all into her. And it brought the competition out in me. I wasn't gonna lose this bet. No way, no how. When I got a chance, I went full flirt on Kevin. I was about to snag my kiss and win the bet all in one night. But when I leaned in and closed my eyes, he didn't kiss me. "What are you doing?" he asked. I acted like I was kidding. And Kevin walked off to talk to Julie. The party was turning into a major bummer, and I just didn't want to watch Kevin and Julie geek it up all night. So I grabbed Julie and said we had to boogie, but she said she was having a good time and wanted to stay. I couldn't believe what a lousy friend she was being. She called me selfish, and I said she was a freak without friends. Kevin interrupted us and offered to give Julie a lift later. Great, just what I needed. I left those two lovebirds to it, and I ditched the party. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up at the beach, alone. I heard this awesome music down by the docks, and I followed the sounds down to this little beach bar. I wasn't really looking to talk to anyone, but that's when I met the most handsome fella I'd ever seen. His name was Dylan, and he was so enchanting. I figured him for a sailor, and we spent the evening together. I completely forgot about Kevin for a moment, and wanted nothing more than this sailor hunk to kiss me. But just when I thought sparks were going to fly, he said he had to leave. And I implored him to stay. I didn't want to be alone. I felt this pressure to be popular. Julie had books and grades and all that nerd crap, and I was supposed to be the one that got all the guys. But not even Dylan wanted to kiss me. I asked him if there was something wrong with me, and he said that there was something wrong with him, that he had to leave before sunrise. What's gonna happen? You gonna turn into a pumpkin? He got serious and said he wasn't human. This guy was nuts, or at least that's what I was thinking, when he explained to me that he was a merman. He said I was beautiful, but we could never be together. Then the sun came up and Dylan's body began to shake, and he fell to the ground. His legs began to fuse together, his pants ripped, and a fish body was underneath. I followed him into the waves and said goodbye. But I had to know more. I swam after him, asking when I could see him again. A storm started brewing, but I didn't stop. I swam and swam against the chop, chasing after him, strangely drawn to this mythical creature. I accidentally swallowed water and started coughing. I could barely move my arms and sank down below the surface. But I felt Dylan's arms around me. And the next thing I remember, I was coughing up water on the sand. In the distance, I saw several mermen and mermaids basking in the sun. I thought it was paradise. But Dylan said we were in a remote part of Santa Rosa Island. Dylan picked up a seashell and put it to his heart. "Do you want to know how I feel about you?" he asked. Before I could answer, he put the seashell to my ear, and I heard the most beautiful song you could ever imagine. I didn't know the language, but the sounds were elegant, and I could feel the love. I slipped the seashell back into my pocket before Dylan swam me back home. By the time I made it back to the dorm, Julie started yelling at me. She was upset about me disappearing and said she called my phone 1,000 times or something. But I was exhausted and needed to sleep and thought maybe I dreamt it all. But then I remembered the seashell. This time when I put it to my ear, I heard something different. It wasn't a beautiful song, it was a menacing hiss. It scared me, and I put it aside. Just then, Julie came back, bragging about how she thought Kevin was going to kiss her any day now. I almost forgot about the stupid bet, but when she brought it up, I started to get competitive again. I stalked Kevin online and learned he was a huge basketball fan. I figured tickets to a game might just be the way to his heart. Ooh, I could see it now. The two of us making out on the kiss cam for Julie and everybody else to see. I slipped into his DM and we started phone flirting. We made plans to get together that night. And I was going to surprise him with the tickets. But before I left, I felt ill. Sick to my stomach suddenly. Everything felt dry, like my skin was thirsty. I pulled myself into the shower where I noticed my toes started growing some kind of webbing. My bottom half began to ooze like the skin was sticking to itself. Nothing could stop my body transformation into a mermaid. I guess I panicked because the next thing I remember, I was flopping on down the dorm hall like a walrus crawling towards an escape. I was facing down a dozen of my peers and they were all pointing and staring. I didn't need a cage because it already felt like a zoo. I was popular, but it wasn't fun. Everybody was jeering, and I let out this siren like a roar that scared everybody away. The only person left standing in the hallway was Julie. I didn't think mermaids were real, she said, and I pleaded for her to help me. Her nerd skills came in handy because she started rambling on about mermaid mythology. You need to be in salt water, she said. She stimulated the experience with the right measurements of salt. And once I was in the bath, the sickness went away, and I was able to think. I told Julie about Dylan, and the island, and the seashell, and everything. She was mystified and intrigued at the same time. She listened to the shell and translated the message the best she could. She theorized it was a curse. I would live with the fishtail until I returned to the shell. She was already making plans to sneak me out so I could swim back to the island. But I got distracted by my phone. I saw that I was tagged as a freak all over social media. Most people thought the picture was photoshopped, but still, they were very cruel. I finally felt what it was like to be the freak, and it was awful. Julie told me to forget about them and helped me sneak to the beach. Immediately, I took to the water and swam all night. I was stunned at how fast I was. It felt amazing. Unlike anything I experienced as a human. I was about to return the shell to the sands when a familiar voice stopped me. It was Dylan, sunbathing on a rock. I knew you'd be back. We're connected now, he said. And he reminded me of the original Seashell song. You don't have to put it back. You can stay with me, he said. Dylan seemed different. He was pushier. And I started to get a little scared. I said I missed my friends, but he reminded me that I didn't have any real friends. Not except for me, he said. I realized what he was doing then. It had been a trick to seduce me. The whole time. And I knew then and there who was my real friend and who wasn't. It was you who put the curse in there to begin with. He refused to admit it and tried to seduce me again. I got lost in his perfect eyes for a moment, but tore myself away. If Julie was accurate, I would have at least a few more hours before I lost my fins. Dylan was chasing me. This time, fangs were forming from his mouth, and he moved like a shark. I swam faster and faster, fearing that he would catch up. I saw the shoreline, and I was almost there. But suddenly, I felt this sticky tear, and my legs were ripping apart from each other. Soon, I was kicking in the water and losing momentum. I thought I was done for. Any minute, Dylan would snatch me up. But when I felt a hand, it was Julie's. She rode out by the pier and was keeping watch for me. She helped me onto the sand. I told her what a good friend she was, and apologized for calling her a freak. Most people tell me that I had a traumatic experience from nearly drowning, and that I hallucinated the whole thing. But Julie knows the truth. When we got back to the dorm, I said that I thought she and Kevin made a great couple. And I gave her the basketball tickets, and tipped her off about the kissing cam. My body transformation into a mermaid was the craziest experience of my life, but it taught me an important lesson. A friend in need is a friend indeed. It's normal to want to be popular, but quality is more important than quantity when it comes to friends. So pick friends who have your best interest at heart. What do you think is the most important quality in a friend? Tell us about it in the comments. Ooh, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.